Ever since childhood, I've looked up at the stars at night, hoping that if I kept my eyes steady on one star and long enough, I would catch it in a mistake, in the hopes that it would dart across the sky, and I would have been one of the only human beings in all of history to have caught real-life aliens. Of course, that never happened. Aliens, sadly, have not visited Earth in my knowledge, but it's really interesting that throughout all of human history, for millennia, dating all the way back to 200 AD, we've been creating stories about aliens. And the really interesting part is that it's not really stories about aliens, but stories about us. Because the mythic of aliens is very much tied to our human experience. Because I'm sure we all feel like aliens sometimes. For as long as I stared up at the skies, those stars became my dream of distant worlds and ancient mysteries. Capturing my attention specifically were stories about distant civilizations, gray humanoid aliens with big eyes, and cosmic horror beyond my belief. Authors such as H.G. Wells were very pivotal in this genre and inspired one of my favorite movies of all time, Alien. So I just really wanted to share some of my favorite stories of aliens in modern times and maybe explore some of the few early depictions of aliens in human history. And honestly, I'm just a guy who really likes stories. I think that stories are fundamental to humans. I think all stories kind of serve to tell us about ourselves. And I think that deep down, everybody's kind of yearning for introspection. And I'm not a smart guy. I'm pretty dumb. A lot of this video is just going to be me sharing my stories, my favorite stories. So if you're into that, keep watching, because I love drawing. I love sharing stories. I love art. If that's any interest to you, then I think you'll be excited about these movies like I am. The earliest depiction of aliens is going all the way back to 200 AD, called A True Story by Lucian of Samosata. It's a satirical novel. It is very wacky. It explores a lot of crazy adventures, and it starts off with these fishermen basically exploring the ocean and then being swept up into the moon. And there's like this whole war between Venus and the sun, this whole war between the king of the moon and the king of the sun over colonizing Venus. There's bizarre hybrid creatures, and it's very imaginative. But this is the first story of having planetary beings being described in a novel. But we could even go further back to the earliest mention of aliens, which is by Agobard of Leon on Hail and Thunder. This is what he says. He was a priest, and back then Christianity, there were people who would control areas for the church. And what happens is this priest, in control of this area, there's something going on within this town, and they have captives. And he walks in and he sees that there's 4 captives, 3 men and 1 woman. And he's wondering why they've taken them captive. And their explanation is otherworldly. This is Agobard of Leon, but we have seen and heard of many people overcome with so much foolishness, made crazy by so much stupidity, that they believe and say that there is a certain region, which is called Magonia, from which ships come in the clouds. In these ships, the crops that fell because of hail and were lost in storms are carried back into that region. Evidently, these aerial sailors make a payment to the storm makers and take the grain and other crops. Among those so blinded with profound stupidity that they believe these things could happen, we have seen many people in a kind of meeting, exhibiting 4 captives, 3 men and 1 woman, as if they have fallen from these very ships. As I have said, they exhibited these 4 who have been chained up for some days, with such a meeting finally assembling in our presence, as if these captives ought to be stoned. But when truth had prevailed, however, after much argument, the people who had exhibited the captives, in accordance with the prophecy, Jeremiah 2:26, were confounded as the thief is confounded when he is taken. So there are people saying that there is a sky cloud realm called Magonia, where magic weathermen would steal grain. Now, the interesting part is that this isn't a story as it is much a historical event. So the first movie that I want to talk about is The Thing. This movie is awesome. It's got some amazing practical effects. There's like a golden age of sci-fi movies that came out, and I really think, The Thing is one of them. It's either the start. There's a lot of movies before The Thing that were amazing, but The Thing is really good because it's super popular, accessible, a simple story. It doesn't have a convoluted background. It's just this alien that literally crash lands on Antarctica maybe a billion years ago, and now this team of like Antarctic researchers went out and found this UFO and found a frozen corpse under the ice, and has the body of a malformed humanoid. Now this is interesting because that means the alien knows what a human looks like and enough to like mimic its body, but that's before it's even technically met any human. So my theory is that the alien came on Earth knowing that humans existed. And there is a line in the movie where they say the magnetic field of Earth may have caused the plane to crash, the UFO. So I'm thinking that the alien, from this line, I'm taking out that the alien planned to come to Earth. He knew about humans already, mimicked it badly, then crash landed in Antarctica, went out the spaceship, and froze. And so after this point, a billion years later, the science team comes and rediscovers the thing, the alien, and things do not go well for them. The next movie I want to talk about is Chronicle. This movie is really nice because it has some ultra 2000 vibes. I feel really bad for the main character because he is like getting abused in the entire movie, but he's one of those anti-heroes, I'd say, but because you feel bad for him, but I don't even know if he's really a hero. I mean, he's the main character, so I guess that's what the term is, but he's just like a devious, evil man who gets superpowers, hanging out with his friends, and then goes crazy. So yeah, the movie starts, you see this guy getting abused, and then he like brings his camera around, and it's kind of funny because throughout the entire movie, everyone points out like, oh, he's so weird. He's got this camera, and it's like obviously just a ploy for like the movie to happen. But the handheld thing, I don't know if it did this movie amazing wonders because I feel like some scenes definitely benefited from it, and I'm kind of confused by. I mean, I guess it would be kind of confusing for movies to have a both. Like you can't have both, right? Both handheld and both not. Like maybe I don't know. Because there are some scenes where obviously it's kind of weird that this is being recorded, but he has like the excuse of, oh, it's his superpowers. So he's just like kind of moving the camera around with his powers. He gets pretty good shots. I like that. I like that he can move the camera around with his powers. And I think that's pretty fun, actually. There was actually a sequel to this movie planned. It's called Martyr. But the studio went into a different direction. The main reason these boys got superpowers was because this crystalline organism called Mogo. And it'd be cool to see the background of that, expand that lore, because Andrew gets murked at the end. I don't even care. I'm spoiling it. But yeah, after going on a huge rampage, he gets slapped by his friend Matt, his cousin. And it's not really a spoiler. I mean, Guy was gonna die anyways. There's some really fun scenes though. I wish they kind of expanded when he was losing control over himself and killing people and kind of going to the dark side. I wish they showed a little more because the scene where he robs a gas station is actually genuinely so cool. He's just kind of walks in like a badass, and the floating cam following him, that's really cool. But yeah, go watch this movie if you haven't. Alien is a film I think everyone knows. I mean, there's a lasting series. There's so many movies about it, so many spin-offs, so many everything. They really milked this cow till it was dry. But the first movie actually had a very meaningful message, and it was very politically charged. During the time that it came out, I think it was 1970s. I don't honestly really know, but during that time, there was a lot of talk of IVF. It just came out. And funny enough, the teacher at my middle school was the first child in Canada to be born via IVF. So running around in the play yards, everyone called him test tube baby. I mean, he was. It was a different time. But now IVF is super, super popular. I feel like a lot of people use it just to have, if they have the money, and people are having birth when they're older now. So it's it makes sense. But back then it was really controversial because it was you're meddling with natural birth and stuff. It wasn't a popular thing yet. So Alien was pretty revolutionizing because it was just opening this discussion up in a formal way through a movie. And it really captured that cultural discussion. If you don't believe me, this movie's about birth. I'll just explain it now. You got natural dirty birth. The alien is disgusting dirty. It comes out of a natural egg. It's gross, but it is the alpha creature. It is killing every single buddy except for Ripley, because you need to have a story. But it kills everyone. Is the ultra mega being. And then who is the enemy in the movie? Who is the real enemy? Because the alien is just doing what it was born to do. It's here to kill eat, lay eggs, and continue on. It's not really an evil creature. It just is a creature. But who's the evil one? Who's the conniving one? Who's the one messing with everyone? It's the frickin' android. He is the main villain of the movie. He's the one that is tricking and causing havoc on the ship. His main objective is to study the organism, all things barred. Like, he will do anything just to get the organism back. His main objective is from the company, considering the crew expendable. And there's like this theme of white colors within the ship. It's very like a sanitized environment, and this was not done accidentally. There's also like the beginning of the movie, they come out of this like the deep freeze cryo sleep, and that's a metaphor for them being born into the world through artificial means. They're getting out of like these eggs, basically very synonymous to the alien eggs that we saw later in the film, but this is at the very start, and it's artificial. So it's the weak humans and android, the artificial life that gets destroyed, demolished by the natural birth, because it's been hardened by nature, you know? Like it's the alpha creature, it's the top of the food chain. But like using technology, meddling with that, it becomes like inferior. So the movie is a criticism of meddling with nature and like just showing that like, yeah, we can mess with nature, but we're never going to be better, you know? And finally, one of my favorite facts about this movie is that in this scene, there's actually children in all the suits, because the set was made at a certain size, a certain scale, and they filmed it with adults originally, but it didn't look so like monumentous. It didn't look so cool. So they refilmed the entire scene, but with children in the suits, with custom suits. So those are children on the scene, in the scene that you're seeing. And I just think it's really cute that they did that, and what an experience would that be if you're just a kid at this alien movie thing before all the hype. That's so fun. Now I'm going to talk about one of my favorite childhood movies that included aliens. This is Aliens versus Monsters. This one's fun. It's an animated movie. I'm not gonna lie, I think this film was made to sell toys, because they got like every single category of children covered. If you like funny blobs, you got Bob. You know, you got funny characters, Bob is there. I think that's not a coincidence that he did the best. I think everyone knows Bob. If you've seen the movie, you remember Bob. You don't really care about the main character, the girl, unless you're a girl maybe, but Bob is the homie. There's a cockroach, he's kind of funny. There's the fish guy, I think he's trying to be macho or something. There's and like that shows I did not watch this movie before making this video. I feel bad, but I do remember a fair amount. It's got that scene where he's playing the piano. This scene was bigger than Minions at the time. This has been memeified throughout culture because it's so iconic. He wasn't even like a main character, this guy. He's just like he's the president. He just goes up, busts down on that piano. If I can play a section, I will. I also played the Nintendo game with Bob. I'll put a clip in here. This game, I don't even think I beat, but I just remember it being fun because I played as Bob. You know, I wasn't really a complicated child, I'm not gonna lie. Also, we'll finally mention the GOAT of the movie, the big moth guy, the homie, the one and only, the original kaiju, dressed to impress, Fuzzy as the best. The next movie I want to talk about was District 9. This alien movie is amazing because it actually talks about real life. There's a lot of themes of marginalization that you don't see, like a lot of stuff that I watched this movie when I was a child, pretty young at least. My parents, by the way, just let me watch whatever I wanted, so I think I have a pretty good variation in the movies I watched. I'll talk about that more maybe in a different video, but District 9 was really good. It's a fun one, I'm not gonna lie. Like it's obviously an action movie. It's an action movie for sure, and it does pretty well at making me interested in the technology of the aliens. It's very like gross, very dirty, but it's like biological weaponry that like kind of attaches to your body. That idea is so cool to me. Yeah, so I'm gonna spoil this whole movie. So in 1982, a massive alien spacecraft appears over Johannesburg, South Africa. Inside, authorities discover a population of malnourished extraterrestrials, later derogatorily nicknamed prawns. Then the government establishes a district called District 9. This is just a marginalization camp where everyone is relocated by the government, who hires a private military company called Multinational United, MNU, which is like the main bad guy of the movie. They try to exploit their technology, by operating alien weaponry, but it doesn't work because it has to be operated by the aliens. It's like DNA activated. And so there is this journalist that comes in trying to take videos, and this is who we discover the entire story through. He gets touched by this fuel source. It's a fuel source. He doesn't know that, but he gets poured on him, and he starts converting into an alien. And then he gets captured by MNU and experimented on, and it discovers that he can use the weaponry. So to say that he's valued by the MNU is an understatement. And so what happens is this character named Christopher, because all the aliens are named like very generic human names, which is, another commentary on like stealing names, like taking identity and erasing history. And if you're familiar with any of the schools in Canada, the residential schools, colonialism and like taking over a culture and committing cultural genocide it's like similar to the plot of this movie. It is a conversation. It opens a conversation on this topic. Like, I mean, I was a child when I watched this. It did not hit me, but later when I reflect on it, it does say something. I think that's important. Giving positive messages and even complex stories to kids, I think is actually really useful, because even if they don't get it in the moment, they will in the future. Because all I knew is I really enjoyed this movie, and I found even more enjoyment coming back to it now. So on the surface, it's a wacky alien film, but if you dive deeper, there's a lot there. And, at the end of the movie, I said I was going to spoil it. Here it is. Christopher, the alien, gets the fuel, gets Wickus is the journalist, and activates the mothership, lifts into orbit, and vows to return in 3 years to cure Wickus. Perhaps there was a sequel planned. I don't know. But Wickus is fully transformed into an alien, and that's how the movie ends. Cloverfield. This movie. I think I had an unreasonable amount of hype for this movie when I was younger. When I was a kid, I just really, really enjoyed the Cloverfield franchise for some reason. I don't know why. It's got one of the worst main characters in the world, and I still liked it. This movie's awesome. I really love the handheld setting and the sci-fi mixed with the handheld. Lots of handheld movies in this, but Cloverfield is essentially the world's most annoying protagonist holding the camera, and it makes sense because it's played by one of the worst people in real life, TJ Miller. There's actually 3 movies with Cloverfield. There's the Cloverfield Paradox, where it kind of gives some background into the lore of the creature. The reason that it came to Earth is because there was like this international space team aboard this station called the Cloverfield Station, and they have to do particle acceleration, trying to get infinite generation of power because the Earth is in a power crisis. So that's how the alien comes to be. Cloverfield, the movie, 2008, that's when we see Mud Platt, aka TJ Miller, experiencing the consequences of this. The alien is attacking New York. It's kind of an A to B movie, starting in the apartment, trying to get to a government facility to escape. And sadly, I don't think he dies at the end of the movie. Oh wait, he does. Yeah, that's good. Okay. Cloverfield, the third Cloverfield movie, called 10 Cloverfield Lane, is a very different take on the genre. There's no moving, there's no crazy sci-fi, but there's this take on the Cloverfield franchise is a lot more character driven. Because what happens is this woman named Michelle survives a car accident, is awakened in an underground bunker owned by Howard Stambler, and she does not trust Howard one bit. Throughout the entire film, he's sneaking around, being very suspicious, but initially very skeptical. Michelle discovers there's real aliens going on. Because imagine you're driving, you get freaking plowed into by a car, then you wake up kidnapped, basically. You would probably be suspicious too. And there's another guy with them, and Howard kills him actually and puts his body in a vat of acid. So I don't trust Howard. He's definitely a crazy guy, because anyone owning a apocalyptic bunker is probably a little unhinged. Honorable mention here is Gonzo. If you didn't know, Muppets, I'm a little bit on a Muppet kick. My last video was about Muppets. Gonzo is an alien. There's a whole movie about it called Muppets from Space. I'll put in a little video here of him having a little dance party, meeting up with his cousins, his space cousins. Please like and subscribe if you made it this far. If you made it this far, you liked the video. Don't lie to yourself.